Alright guys, you are tuned in to another book review. And on this episode, we are going to review David and Goliath by Malcolm Gladwell right now. So the reason why I picked up this book, well in fact, I actually didn't pick it up, I got it gifted to me. And the person who gifted it to me actually saw me do a keynote presentation and afterwards came up to me and said, "Chris, have you ever heard of the book called David and Goliath by Malcolm Gladwell?" And naturally I said, "No, I hadn't." And he's like, "Beautiful. I suggest for you to go pick it up and really pay attention to the 4th chapter." Now I'm going to tell you why he told me that a bit later on in the video. A couple of days passed, I didn't even have time to go pick it up, and in my office, he had sent me the book as a gift. So this book review is actually dedicated to my friend, Mr. Roger. So in the introduction, the author talks about the biblical story of David and Goliath. Now that story was actually a war between the Philistines and the Israelites. And this war was actually in the valley of Elah in Israel. Now how the valley was made it that both armies did not budge. Because if they were going to go down the valley and they were going to go up, they were going to be so exposed to losing men that nobody wanted to take the risk. So back in the day, there was a war method called one-on-one. That they used to pick the strongest one of each army and they would battle it out, and whoever won would actually win that war. And that made it that there would be less people that would die and less bloodshed. So the first army picked Goliath, huge man, strong, massive, looks scary. On the other side, when they saw that, nobody wanted to go ahead. It was almost like an immediate loss. They knew that they were gonna lose against this big guy. So somebody stepped up from the second army and said, "I'm gonna fight." It was actually a young boy, a young shepherd. And nobody else was going against him, so the army head said, "All right, go ahead and fight." He went to give him armor, and the young man, which actually was David, said, "No, I'm not gonna wear the armor. I'm not used to that. It's too heavy for me." So he just went and he actually picked up some rocks from the floor and he went towards Goliath. Now, long story short, how it went about was, before even getting close to him, David took the rocks and swinged it directly in the middle of the forehead of Goliath. And he just went down, knocked out TKO. And they actually won the war because of that. So the author puts a great spin on this biblical story, and in fact, shows that David was not necessarily an underdog. And I'm not going to give you any spoilers on it. I'm going to let you guys discover that on your own. So the first part of the book talks about the advantages of disadvantages and the disadvantages of advantages. One of the stories he mentions in this part is actually the young basketball team run by Vivian Radadiv. When Vivian became the head coach of his daughter's 12-year-old basketball team, he had no knowledge about basketball and how to go about it. In fact, he found it weird that after a team scored a basket, they used to run back to their end and protect the last 20 feet of the basketball court. He didn't get why the whole beginning part, they left it just open for the other team to come and attack. He knew that his team was not the most talented, wasn't the tallest, and wasn't the people that had the best dribble skills. So he decided to teach the kids how to play a full court press. And that in itself, for the people that don't understand basketball, is as soon as the ball gets in the court, there's a player on each other opposing player. So it's a full man coverage. Now that tactic is really good, but it is tiring. So when he took over the team, there's 2 things he wanted to do. First and foremost, never scream at the girls, teach them with positivity. Second of all was teach them to play full court press all the time. So in fact, it ended up that they won a championship. Completely defied all odds, and even so much to the fact that other coaches were getting frustrated by their playing on defense with the full court press. So this is a great example of the advantages of the disadvantages. Radadiv came in, had no knowledge about basketball, but in fact that he didn't know anything about basketball advantaged him to think outside of the box and do a full court press, towards if he had a knowledge about basketball, probably never would have taught it like that. The second part talks about the theory of desirable difficulties. And it starts off with the 4th chapter saying, "You wouldn't wish dyslexia on your children, or would you?" Now if you remember correctly, this book was actually gifted to me for this specific chapter. Now why that is because I'm actually dyslexic. and I'm a professional speaker who talks about this subject among many others. Now, Malcolm Gladwell starts in that chapter explaining what the brain chemistry behind dyslexia is, and the fact that you can't necessarily call it a desirable difficulty because so many people struggle with it on a day-to-day basis. Now, a counterbalance to that, he also says that 1/3 of all entrepreneurs are dyslexic, such as Richard Branson, Charles Schwab, and so much more. Now, he interviewed so many dyslexics in this chapter and explaining why it can be an advantage. So at the end, he does say that it is an advantage on the fact that every single entrepreneur that he interviewed said without a doubt that they are where they are because of their dyslexia, because they learned from such a young age how to be an entrepreneur and never gave up because they failed so much in the schooling system. In fact, it was an advantage. Now, he also says these people usually were in a good structure in their home life. So if you gave dyslexia to somebody, a kid that is in a broken home, comes from alcoholic parents, or whatever other example he uses, he's like, that's not a desirable difficulty. Because in his home or in his other part of his life is already very difficult. So if you go to school and it's difficult, that's not desirable. But if somebody's in a great situation, in a family that's nicely structured, and the only difficulty you have is school, in fact, that could be an advantage for you. The third and final part of the book talks about the limits of power. Now, one of the stories he mentions over here is actually a pretty sad story about Mike Reynolds' daughter. So in 1992, the daughter goes out to the store. Unfortunately, she crosses path with 2 drug addicts. They try to steal her purse. She tries to resist, and one of them ends up killing her. Now, after the fact, the father pledges to never let a situation like that happen again in his community, which was in Fresno, California. So what he does is he starts a panel of people that can make a difference and take decisions in the community, and they come up with the idea to do a referendum. And the referendum was called the 3-strike rule, which meant if after your 3rd offense, you have a chance to go to prison for 25 years. So they put it into the voting, and 72% of the voters vote yes. So it's a big win for them. Not only that, the crime rate completely drops down. Now, there's a counterbalance to that, is that there's actually 2 times more people in prison. So what does that mean? There's a lot of kids that are out there with their parents in prison. So that actually does a counterbalance. A lot of the young kids go into the juvenile system. Actually, 200 to 300% more chances of going into the juvenile system if your parent is in prison. Not only that, 250% more chance of having psychological difficulties. So they noticed that maybe they went a bit too strong with the law. And in 2012, they take it back to readjust it. And that's actually the limits of the power in itself. So my impressions on this book. It's actually the first Malcolm Gladwell book that I'm reading, and it's not going to be the last one. He's really an eloquent writer. The way that he brings his ideas and then right away with a nice story, it just captivated me. So I definitely suggest you guys to go pick it up. The Amazon link will be in the description, so you guys can go ahead and click that. And hopefully you guys liked the video, and I'm going to leave you off with live your life on purpose and with purpose. Peace. Hello guys, thank you very much for watching another video once again. If you liked it, please like and subscribe and share it with all of your friends. If you want to get a more in-depth look into my life, here are some social media platforms that you can do that. And I will see you in the next video.